All right, guys, welcome to Music Magic. Let's actually hop up. You could sit down if you wanted to, but I'm going to hop up today to do our rhythm work. So we've got starting with our main beat. So we're thinking about tango, which is made up of our 4 beats. So we're going 1, 2, 3, 4. So whatever movement we make, whether it's side steps, forward or back, walking, you're just trying to move your mass on the beat, on the main beat. And when you move that mass, right now I'm kind of moving from split weight to split weight a little bit. Maybe you're wanting to work from standing axis to standing axis. So you can play around with where that main beat sits inside your mass movement. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6, 7 and 8. I've counted too many. Often it is bars away, to be fair. But I'm just using the strike as my main beat. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You can play with your ochos. Just recognize how those ochos actually need to be quick enough that you can strike on that main beat. So you'll notice that that pivot has to occur underneath that walking idea. Beat and beat and beat. Beat and beat and beat and beat. Beat. Play with your crosses. Beat, 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 beat. Don't double time your cross. We're just working with the main beat. So remember, the goal was to have your mass moving to single time. So when you do those crosses, they'll probably feel a little bit slow because you're actually taking a whole beat to place that cross. Beat and beat and beat and beat and beat. Beat and beat and beat. Beat, beat, beat. Cool. Let's now do all of that just on the offbeat. So I've been saying the word and, we're going to do it all on and, which is that offbeat in dancer terms. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and putting crosses and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Cool. Swapping on and off the beat. So there's 2 ways, as we've discussed previously. You can either hang out there and then jump onto whatever part of the rhythm you want to jump onto. So you could hang out 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and jump in on wherever you like. Or you can use groupings to switch over. So if we split the beat, if we do a group of 3, so for example, if we go and move our mass 3 times, 1 and 2. So that 1 and 2 ended up being a movement of 3, mass moving 3 times. Then I'll get back to whatever beat I was on. So here, if I hit 1, that's the beat I'm on, the main beat. So 1 and 2. So I've come back to the main beat. But if I use an even number of mass changes, like 2, for example, so if I'm on the main beat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. So I used a little double in there that shifted me onto the offbeat. So that's what we're going to use now. And again, you can just do weight changes for this, or you can move around however you like. 5, 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and. Cool. So speaking of groupings. So let's take those groupings of 2 and just use them with a bit of a pause. So we're going to go 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 3 and 4. So what I love about this is it trains you to not always have to finish and resolve with that group of 3. It allows you to recognize in your body what it feels like to suspend the movement. So we have, once again, we've got groups of 2, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 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 3 and 4. So it's this lovely little suspension. Now let's take that same grouping and go from the offbeat to the onbeat. So it's going to go and 1 and 3, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 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 2 and 3 and 4. Cool. Favorite one to play with. So now let's go really easy. Groups of 3. 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. To me, that feels very easy once you get used to it. It's kind of the most common one. So what I like to do if I'm feeling adventurous, just most of the time, is take that group of 3 that we all know that we've felt before in the dance and shift it so it's on the offbeat. So it would go and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 1 and 3 and. If that just went over your head, that's totally fine. This is recorded. You can look back on it as many times as you like. Okay. Now, with those groupings of double time, we can do any size grouping we want. So it could be much larger. For example, you could have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. So I've just gone and done the whole bar there of double time. So it's really as big or as small as you want to make it. So when I call out groupings, any size grouping you like. Okay, let's syncopate. So dividing that beat once more. So we had it divided in 2, where we're going 1 and 2. I'm going to divide it further. We'll use drumming terms. So an E and an A. So we'll have 1 E and A. And that just gives us more divisions. This is where our syncopation comes in. So if we go and tap on the E, and we're going to close our feet to really emphasize where that little syncopated moment is sitting. So this will feel very different. So we've got 1 E and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E, 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. Now, we've spoken before about whether to collect or not in the feet. So in this circumstance, I'm collecting my feet because I want to make a point of the music. So I'm making a choice here, a stylistic and musical interpretive choice. If I was going to lead this movement, I need to give my follower enough energy. I need to have enough tension through the body and transmit that into her, so her body tenses enough that it can catch those ideas. So there's that sort of action going on, this whoom and whoom. If I was following, I could also put this in, even if it isn't led, I would just need to feel whether my leader is wanting to do anything with that side movement. If I feel like my leader's just taking a side step along the way to somewhere, then it won't matter to the leader if I go and pull in this energy. But if my leader's trying to take a side movement like this, with all this gooey quality, and I go and I do this, that may not fit. So you want to be aware of the music and the partnership between the two of you. So again, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 1 E, 2 E, 3 E, 4 E. 1 E and a 2 E, 3 E and a 4 E. Cool. Let's now go, and we're just using the side step. Obviously, you can syncopate wherever you like, whether it's on a walk or anything like that. Now let's do the which is on the other side of that bar, on the other side of that beat that we've split up. So again, we're going to leave the feet apart, if you will, and we're just going to close and tap on the So we have 1 E and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Completely different sensation. The other one snapped in. It took more energy to transfer. It like pushed, almost jumped across. Whereas this one is elongating and then going, oh, and off we go. So there's like this little into the movement, this little breath in. And I can do this as my body starts to travel, which is quite interesting. So I use this a lot as a follower or a leader because it doesn't affect too much, or it potentially doesn't affect too much how I'm traveling into the next movement, because I've got enough tensegrity in the leg and foot here that this leg can be doing this. So as that leg does that, this foot can tap underneath. It doesn't, my body's not being supported by this free leg, so I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about having it in a particular position. The only thing you need to be aware of though is you can't stay here. So if your body was moving and you went, I want to tap here, and you stayed there, you'd fall over. So it's a very quick movement. It's like on the way to something. So it's going and out rather than and. It's got to push out. So as a result, because I can do that, I can actually place this one in my dance quite a lot, which feels really nice to kind of accent into the next movement. So again, 1 E and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. All right. And lastly, playing with taking 2 beats. I love this one because this has so much to work with. So when we go for every 2 beats, we can have those 2 beats over one movement. So if we go and take a movement forward and another movement forward. So we've got 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So we're taking 2 beats to move across, and I'm using the whole 2 beats for this particular moment. So I'm going 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, going backwards, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, going forward and side, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So what I love about this is it looks kind of like everything's stretched out and becomes super gooey. And I'm still trying to keep the flow continuous through the movement. As opposed to, and this is what I love about dance, is creating juxtaposition, as opposed to moving all my weight onto one leg and having that second beat to play with in the free leg. So if we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I can muck around with my leg and really like play with taps, kicks, it doesn't matter because I've got space and time there. Now, I love the juxtaposition of putting those two together personally. So going from the really stretchy version into that, I find that if I danced like this all the time and I was constantly sort of using these flicks, I would find that boring personally because it's like somebody talking in the same monotone. No matter how fancy it looks, if it's the same thing, it's like going out to dinner. If you went out to the same restaurant every night, you'd probably miss, you know, variety, like having some Thai food one night, some Indian the next, some pizza the next. Oh, imagine a life where you never have pizza again because all you eat is Thai food. I love Thai food, but I would miss my pizza. So I like juxtapositioning something that's super gooey and then still using those two beats, but then using them in a different way and then drop back into that gooiness. And the great thing is tango music does that. It does change and flow. So really cool. All right, speaking of music, let's put on a piece. And also, like, depending on what piece it is, as we've talked about before, that will affect how we move as well and what we might choose to do. So I'm going to play a couple of pieces for you guys, just like one after the other, and you'll notice it'll change how you, like what choices you make, how you choose to move your body. So let's go with something cute and plonky to begin with. You can dance whatever you want. I'm just going to call out what I want you guys to play with in terms of the ideas of groupings or that, you know, that sort of thing. All right, here we go. Starting with groupings. Every second step. So taking 2 beats. Still taking 2 beats. Groupings. Walking around. Single time. If you want to take single onto the offbeat, you can. Different idea again. Playing with your syncopations. Groupings. You can syncopate whenever you like, guys. This music's got lots of syncopation in it. Groupings. Single time. Every 2 beats. All right, every 2 beats. Single beat. You can syncopate wherever you like. Groupings. Every 2 beats. Groupings. Single beat can either be on the main beat or you can be on the off beat. And singles. If you feel like there's a double beat in there, when you're moving your mass on the single beat, tap it out with your foot. Groupings. You can syncopate wherever you like. Every 2 beats. Groupings. Every 2 beats. Groupings. Single beat. Remember, if you're on single beat and you feel like it's double, you can tap. Syncopate as well, sing the parts. Groupings. That last piece, guys, Yappa You by Darienza, very cool. It's an interesting thing that occurred there towards the last section, and that is something that is, I think, a very, very good tool, particularly for followers. So I had you guys, if you're doing what I called out, if you weren't, that's okay, like you can do your own versions of this, but I called out single time. So we were walking on single time, but there was different elements happening in the music. There was syncopation, there was a lot of like double time rhythm going on where it was going dum, 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 dum. So that single time could have been sitting on the offbeat for one, because the offbeat was being accented. But either way, like you want to be able to, if your mass is moving at the same rate, which sometimes happens, we like get into that habit and our mass moves at the same rate in the dance. And you want to create difference in your quality of movement because the music's being different and you don't want to feel like you're kind of getting that monotone. So we can have the idea of moving single time and then make the difference the way in which we move the legs or the way in which we shift the mass in that single time. So for example, one of the differences we did earlier on was that sense of gathering quite tightly for the syncopation. So that track has a lot of that. It goes beat, beat, E, boom, boom. So it does this little syncopation here. So we can, inside that single time, we can play with that extra explosion of energy. So if we have casual single, casual single, casual single, casual single, explosion, explosion. Well, internal explosion kind of is going in. I just thought of that. Explosion kind of usually means this, but in this, I'm like, the reason I'm thinking of explosion, even though it looks like this is the thing, I'm thinking of explosion because of how it starts. For this movement to work, if I'm casually moving, I'll be too late. So that's why explosion as a word came to my mind, because you need to think of boom at the start to get, in order to get this action. If you're casual, then this will be late. So we've got casual, 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 explosion, 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 casual, 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 explosion, explosion, explosion. So we didn't change our rhythmic timing there in terms of our mass was moving on the main beat, but how we played inside that changed. And now we've got something that feels very different. You can also play with tapping, like I mentioned. So we've got beat and beat and beat and beat and beat and beat and beat. So if you've got a thing that's going 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and then from there, take those taps away. Smooth it out. Bring the taps back in. Smooth it out. And even just playing with what it feels like to glide your feet across the floor, so they're touching the floor as they go, versus picking up the feet. Even that itself just gives a little bit of difference. And glide, 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 pick up the feet. Add some syncopation. Yatta, da 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 da, yatta, da da da, yatta, ba ba ba, add syncopation the other way. Yum, da-dum, yadum, ba-dum, da-dum, yum, ba-dum, da-dum, yum, ba-dum, da-dum, yum, ba-dum, yadum, yum, ba-dum. So little things we can do to flavor even something that is kind of like acting as a bland bass there. So really good. And I said particularly for followers, because sometimes as followers, well, actually most of the time, we are not in control. We're not making the choices necessarily of how quickly our mass moves across the floor. So we need to sometimes find other ways, like we just worked on there, of getting that sort of dynamic into our dance. Cool. All right. We've been moving around quite a bit. Let's take a seat for a sec and break down some music. I love this part. I find it so interesting. There's like so much to discover in a track. It's so cool. All right. So the track that I want to use today is a really sweet piece, and it's done by a couple of orchestras. So we're going to look at Maleva. The first one is by Lucio Demare. So Demare is kind of an older orchestra, really nice, smooth. Have a listen to this, Maleva. You can wave your hands around as you like.
Malena canta el tango como ninguna, en cada verso pone su corazón. Ayuno del suburbio su voz perfuma, Malena tiene pena de bandoneón. Tal vez en la infancia su voz me alonga, como ese tono oscuro de callejón. ¿O acaso aquel romance que solo nombra cuando se pone triste con el alcohol? Malena canta el tango con voz de sombra, Malena tiene pena de bandoneón. Tu canción tiene el frío del último encuentro, tu canción se hace amarga en la sal del recuerdo. Yo no sé si tu voz es la flor de una pena, solo sé que al rumor de tus tangos, Malena, te siento más buena que yo. Tus tangos son criaturas abandonadas que cruzan sobre el barro del callejón cuando todas las puertas están cerradas y ladran los fantasmas de la canción. Malena canta el tango con voz quebrada, Malena tiene pena de bandoneón.
Oh, what a beautiful song. But it's so interesting. I love these classes because when I go and sit down and really listen to tango, I start hearing so many things that I hadn't thought of before. So with this piece, often when I hear it, I think of really like long, melodic, stretchy sensations because it is quite smooth and soft. And the voice is interesting because the voice is almost throughout the whole piece, but it's not, the voice is not very strong. So I don't feel like I have to really highlight the voice too much in this piece. Whereas sometimes with singers, like they really make a theme, a section for the singer, if you will. So you feel like dancing to the singer when it comes on. But this singer is quite soft. But what I loved about listening to that piece that time was the little piano parts that came in. So the singer would do something melodic and the little piano part would come in and play over the end part of the idea. So yeah, have a listen to that a little bit. There's something I want to point out there, guys. That was finishing dun 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 dun. It was finishing on the offbeat, so it didn't go dun 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 and stop there. It went dun 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 dun. So there's that extra. So it's quite nice if you actually, when you go to move, if you can play with going that little half beat further, because that's what the music does there a little bit. So have a listen to that again. Syncopated there. Stretches. So it's doing an offbeat and then a syncopation and then a stretch.
Malena canta el tango como ninguna, en cada verso pone
So you've got a very soft voice.
a yo del suburbio su voz
So it's really interesting what I'm hearing there personally, because everybody hears different things. I'm hearing him coming da 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 da. So there's this da 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 da. So the singer is coming in actually faster. Da 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 da. And then the violins come in over the top of him, and I think a bit of bandoneon as well, which then stretches out the last part. So it goes da 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 dum dum, ya da da, and then this whole thing stretches. His voice is has syllables underneath, but really the violins have gotten stronger. So if I was dancing to this section, I'd want to feel in my body this idea of maybe something delicate and rhythmic going into something long, which we're kind of not used to doing sometimes. We have a habit, or a lot of people have a habit of kind of going long and then into something faster. Whereas here I would reverse that because of what's playing. So have a listen again.
Tango como ninguna. Malena canta el tango como ninguna, en cada verso pone su corazón, ayuno del suburbio su voz perfuma. Malena tiene pena de bandoneón, tal vez haya en la infancia su voz de alondra, como ese tono oscuro de callejón.
Ooh, plonky. This is the part that made me smile before. So here, I wouldn't even take the singer. I would just hang out and play with that piano. It's so cute. Have a listen, and then we'll get up and dance to these ideas.
¿O acaso aquel romance que solo nombra cuando se pone triste con el alcohol? Malena canta el tango.
And it goes back into some rhythm, into some solid, simple rhythm. This section you could do anything. You could follow the voice, you could follow that beat underneath, you could follow the violins, because it's all kind of got the same intensity, so you could actually do either one of those. But yeah, that little piano thing, for those that are working on understanding their kind of offbeat accents a little bit more, it came in on the offbeat. So it went and one, like it went and beat. So you can listen for it in that way as well. So let's have a dance to this and just to feel some of those different intentions there in the music. So at the start, it was pretty like, there was definitely rhythm in there, but there was also this sense of melodic, and it was playing with, just as a reminder, it was playing with sometimes rolling over to the offbeat rather than stopping on the main beat. There was a very soft offbeat note that it would sometimes stop on. And then it had that little syncopation that it was playing with as well. So it kind of went rolling onto the offbeat, and then same idea with a syncopation, and then it went melodic. That was kind of its nature at the start. Here we go. Really stretch it out for this section. Back into rhythm.
Malena canta el tango como ninguna, en cada verso.
So play this double time at the start.
Ayuno del suburbio su voz perfuma. Malena tiene pena de
So let's do that again. So when that voice comes in, see if you can go ya da 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 something da da, and this can stay stretchy. And then when it comes in on the next phrase again, ya da 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 something. Doesn't matter what footwork you do, but just try and catch that idea of starting a phrase with rhythm rather than starting a phrase with something stretchy. If you were a follower and you didn't get moved anywhere, you could go ya da 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 da, for example. So it doesn't have to be a movement of mass that highlights that rhythm. It could be a free leg.
Malena canta el tango como ninguna, en cada verso pone su corazón. Ayuno del suburbio su voz perfuma, Malena tiene pena de bandoneón. Tal vez haya en la infancia su voz de alondra, como ese tono oscuro de callejón. ¿O acaso aquel romance que se nombra cuando se pone triste con el alcohol? Malena canta el tango con
Let's do that little section again. So it's got those little violins that come in. Da, 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 da. So let's play with that little moment.
¿O acaso aquel romance que solo nombra voz de alondra como ese tono oscuro de callejón? ¿O acaso aquel romance que solo nombra cuando se pone triste con el alcohol? Malena canta.
We're going to do that again for my benefit because I really like that little section. So it's like the plucking of the violins, I believe. What was that saying? Staccato, yeah? So you're getting this little like plucking sensation, this staccato nature in those violins. All right, here we go.
¿O acaso aquel romance que solo nombra cuando se pone triste con el alcohol? Malena canta el tango.
And now it's a little stretchy again, so it's just a moment. Whatever you want to choose, it could be the underlying rhythm. Could be the violins on top. I feel this section is a bit of like a roller coaster of movement. And then you've got the staccato again. Smooth it out.
Tangos son criaturas abandonadas que cruzan sobre el barro del callejón. Cuando todas las puertas están cerradas y ladran los fantasmas de la canción. Malena canta el tango con voz quebrada. Malena tiene pena de bandonear.
What an interesting ending. Let's do that ending again. By the way, Donnie came and whispered in my ear, the musician of the two of us. Apparently that moment that you heard that we're working on is called pizzicato. I think I'm saying it properly. Yes, I've got a thumbs up over there, pizzicato. For any musicians out there, I am not a musician. So when I'm talking, I'm learning though. I am learning the piano and I'm learning more about it. But yeah, anybody that gets the chance to pick Donnie's brain at any point in terms of music, go for it because there's so much stuff there. So apparently that thing is called pizzicato, what we were hearing. Okay, listen to this ending one more time. It's full of syncopation. It's so cool.
Malena canta el tango con voz quebrada. Malena tiene pena de bandonear.
So it's got this yet, there's all this lovely little rhythmic play at the end. One last time, that ending.
Malena canta el tango con voz quebrada. Malena tiene pena de bandonear.
Very good. So nice. Okay, so that piece, guys, was Melena by Demare. So what often happens, which I really like in tango, is that you'll get different orchestras and their ideas of a track. So the other guy that does Melena is Troilo. Now this is going to sound different from what we just heard, and that's what's kind of fun, is it's the same track, different interpretation. So you can move around and dance to this, or you can sit down and have a listen. Either way. Here we go. Oh, already different. Heavier, more breathiness and everything. really swelling. Yeah, there's a lot of swelling of the music in this. There's still that syncopation in there, which is really nice.
Malena canta el tango como ninguna y en cada verso pone su corazón.
Oh, that's so interesting. He's chosen to make that, so the singer's quite smooth, but unlike the Demare piece that had the smooth violins coming in over the top, he's gone straight into those instruments being a little bit more staccato over the top. But he's kept his singer very, very smooth. Let's listen to that again. That was interesting. And so interesting too, there's a very distinct stop there as well. I love listening to how music swells and flows, but also how sometimes musicians or composers will make a purposeful stop too. So this Demare didn't quite have this moment here. So there's this actual pause in the music where you could pause your movement or you could tighten up your movement. So have a listen to that again. So it's like nothing just there. So it just happened in months. Interesting.
Malena canta el tango como de sombra, Malena tiene pena de abandono. Tu canción tiene el frío del último encuentro.
Lovely, that little suspension as the singer comes up. It's like he's going up and over a hill. So I would use a lot of like three-dimensionality in this dance. And if I didn't have the opportunity to do three-dimensionality, if I was following, for example, I'd really like work with stretching out my leg and playing with stretching out my foot or slowing down and articulating through my heel. Also unfolding, like just trying to get this wavy. So for me, I feel like this music is kind of like waves. It's moving up and down and swelling like an ocean. So like I would play with that, either that feeling in how I transition, so coming down and up and over and things like that. But if my leader isn't there with me in that idea, then I would try and get that swelling action into my limbs, basically. Like how is that limb coming up and over that wave, or is it diving under the wave? Maybe a little bit of breathiness or stretch in my upper body as well. So this song for me has a lot more of this, whereas the Demare piece, it was kind of had a little bit more rhythmic play in a way that came across stronger to me, whereas this really is like a lot of it is swelling. So let's dance this piece out from start to finish and try and feel how you might get that sort of rolling ocean sensation of this piece of music into your upper body or into your legs or into your feet or into your transitions. So really feeling that. And then it does have some syncopations in there as well. So if you can catch those syncopations however you like, awesome. And just hearing that voice, when that voice went up just then, how you might interpret that in your body. Like if the singer goes up and suspends in his range up here, how would that feel? So I would definitely use a bit of arms in this as well. You can have a set embrace, but I'm gonna let my arms flow a little bit just to exaggerate the ideas that I'm feeling. Dancing from start to finish, here we go.
Malena canta el tango como ninguna y en cada verso pone su corazón al suyo del suburbio su voz perfuma. Malena tiene pena de bandoneón, al verso de la infancia su voz que alumbra como se para oscuro de callejón. ¿O acaso aquel romance que solo nombra cuando se pone triste con el alcohol? Malena canta el tango como de sombra, Malena tiene pena de bandoneón. Tu canción tiene el frío del último encuentro, tu canción y amarga en la sal del recuerdo. Yo no sé si tu voz es la flor de la pena, solo sé que al rumor de tu tango Malena me siento más buena que tus tangos son criaturas abandonadas que cruzan sobre el barro del callejón cuando todas las puertas estén cerradas y ladran los fantasmas de la canción. Malena canta el tango con voz quebrada, Malena tiene pena de bandoneón.
Beautiful track. Oh, I have no idea about this next version of Maleva. That's an orchestra I don't even know. So that track there, guys, that was the Troilo version of Malena, and the one before was Demare. So it's quite interesting to do that when you find a piece of music that you like, to just check out different orchestra versions of that music, because they put their different spin on it and you can get even more out of that track or out of that song. So yeah, really interesting there how Troilo really dived into this sense of swelling of the music. And he did have some strong rhythmic moments, but they were kind of gently peppered throughout that, and they weren't the theme of the piece, if you will. So it's, yeah, really beautiful to have a listen to a track by a couple of different orchestras. So to finish off, let's listen to a completely different track from a different orchestra. But what I want you to do is play with the fact that you haven't heard it yet, meaning listen to the first section and know that it's highly likely that first section is going to get repeated. So even though you haven't listened to the track yet, we haven't broken it down, you want to try and start using the tango structures to go, oh yeah, it played that before, so it's going to repeat that again. There's the repetition. I know what's coming next because as we were dancing, we were listening to the start of it. So I'm going to give you guys, and that's the nice thing about tango, is often it's really good in that sense, in terms of its rhythmic structure, because it lets us know what's coming even if we don't know the piece. So I'm going to give you guys a D'Arienzo piece. We're going to dance to one of my favorites. So you've probably heard this before. All right, it's El Choclo by D'Arienzo. So it's going to repeat the idea. Who goes? Repeating the idea. What's repeated? lots of lovely syncopation in this one. Oh, such a cool song. So that was El Choclo by D'Arienzo. And even though we didn't know the piece, because of the lovely tango structures in the song, we can recognize what's coming when we hear it repeat. And as it starts to repeat, we go, okay, it's that section. I know I can play with these syncopations. And that's a good one if you want to work on the syncopations, particularly the ones that are doing like 1E, that sort of feeling. That song's got, as you can feel, tons of them. So if you want to play with syncopations, chuck that on your stereo and dance around to that. So awesome work, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me.